Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. I first want to apologize for not showing up on what looked to be a live this morning. Actually, it was a pre-recorded streaming, and it's going to do that tonight instead. But anyway, I apologize for people who are waiting, and thank you for your concern. That's very sweet. As you can see, I'm here with Anne Marie, and I'm thrilled to be here again with Anne Marie at Angel Star Karma.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to do a little talking. Oh, of course, you're my favorite astrologer. So we're going to talk about, I guess, the karma of the Uranus. Is that how you say it? Uranus.
I think I've heard
Uranus.
it both ways.
Uranus in.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah.
The other sounds too much like your anus.
I know.
I don't think that's what it's supposed to be. So it was Uranus in Taurus, which is an earth sign, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Fixed earth.
So
very steady and solid.
Right. Some of the things that I looked up that it rules, I found to be interesting. Of course, it rules cows, which is actually because Taurus is a bull, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it says that that it also rules copper. Maybe you should start working with some copper, Anne Marie, because I know you make those beautiful.
I make the copper feathers. Yeah, my copper feathers.
Okay, well, you do, yeah. But I didn't know if you want to make a bigger thing in copper.
Yeah.
Art and jewelry and our possessions, music, culture, and sculpture. It also rules weather changes, which Anne Marie's going to talk about, and money, and the throat. It rules the throat. So if your throat chakra's not doing too well, you might figure that one out.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the weather.
Yeah,
I'm let you start.
Some crazy weather. Uranus got into Taurus in 2018, the current go round, and so and this year specifically because of the squares to Saturn, Saturn in Aquarius, and Uranus in Taurus, and there were two already, and then the third final square will be on Christmas Eve. No, is that right?
Ooh.
Yes, it's on Christmas Eve. And I think somewhere toward the end of the year. I'm pretty sure it's a Christmas Eve. So those squares have been fixed air and fixed earth. And we have, all this dramatic weather this year and the earthquakes. And so, but yes. Taurus is about our finances and about our values. And so the financial markets and that what we've seen, the volatile markets,
right?
And Uranus
going
is
up and down,
technology and innovation, and so having Uranus go through Taurus is creating this idea of this new market system, and having to look at and squaring Saturn, which is all about the establishment. So that's why we have all this volatile markets and financial things. And so it's an interesting time.
It's no surprise that Wall Street has a bull.
Right.
Is it?
Right. Bull market, bear market, bull market. So
yeah. But they have that big picture of the bull out there in front of Wall Street.
Yes.
It's gold usually. Yeah. So, yep. Bull market. Yeah.
Hi, Janet P. Hi, Sherry
H. Hi, Sherry and Janet. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. So when you brought up technology, the first thing I thought of, and innovation and all that, the first thing I thought of was two men went up into space in a private technological vehicle. And that made sense if that's part of what's going on right now as well, right?
Yeah. Well, in Aquarius, with Saturn in Aquarius, is about air, so fixed air, and detaching from the earth, because Aquarius is detaching. And so, but Uranus is about space travel too. Yeah, space. Hi,
Okay, I missed
Ron.
that whole thing, but it's my fault. I'm home and I'm not in with bad internet, but guess what? I'm having problems with my internet once again. So there's
That's okay.
technology for you. So I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry to everybody though. It gets really old to have to listen, put up with this.
No, it's
Anyway,
okay.
yeah, I just thought that was fascinating. And today, if anybody doesn't know, hasn't seen the news, we had a 8.2, was it, in
Seven
earthquake in
point,
Haiti?
I think. The last one I
7.2,
saw was
sorry. Oh,
7.2. I don't
8.2.
know
What?
if, I mean, yeah, I hope there wasn't an
Uh-huh.
8.2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They'll probably have some aftershocks. They didn't think a tsunami was going to follow, but then again, you never really know. I mean,
Hmm.
well, I guess you do from the warnings, but hi, Ron. Good to see you. Um, all right. So the reason that I really wanted to do this was because there's a lot of reasons. I really love working with Anne Marie, number one, and I think that
I love working with
she's
you
got
too.
such great expertise in astrology and everything. But I wanted to talk. I like to talk also about the historical components of something, and the issue with she just mentioned the squares to Saturn and this and that. The astrology is not just, we have Uranus in Taurus, and we don't have to worry about all the other things. Those other things make different worlds as well.
Yeah.
But when we were trying to nail down what to do today, we decided we would start with Taurus in Uranus. I'm going to say it wrong again.
Okay.
Uranus,
Uranus
and
and Taurus. Uh-huh.
what that has meant for the world in the past, as well as for us today, and what we can maybe expect, or what we're seeing and how that fits.
Yeah.
So, is there any other tidbit you want to tell us about this, Anne Marie? I don't want to step on your toes.
No, you're fine. This is your show, baby. You do it. You tell me what to do.
Oh, I'm very good at doing that. I don't like doing it though.
Oh, you're fine.
So there are Uranus takes 84 years to come back to the same spot that it was.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time I'm gonna go backwards, starting with the last time it happened, and
Okay.
go further backwards from there.
Yeah.
So the last time it happened was, and Anne Marie can verify this. Sometimes it backs up and goes into a different zodiac sign for a while and then moves back in. You
Yeah.
have that happen, but approximately 1934 to 1941 ish is when this happened.
Yes.
And so we've got some buildup of things that will happen later. Like, for instance, we have a buildup of Hitler, but we also have a buildup of the Japanese planned attack on Pearl Harbor. But that didn't happen until 1942. But it paved the way, I guess, for
Yes.
this thing to. So we were dealing with recovery from the Depression. We were dealing with a lot of people out of work. And so this is when Roosevelt decided to start Social Security programs, and he started these other work programs called the New Deal.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me a lot of what Joe is doing right now. And we had a depression earlier, and we probably have a semi-depression right now. Um, and we certainly do, I know. And we also have a lot of inflation because a lot of things were stopped during the pandemic
Right.
first iteration. But we saw the rise of Hitler at this time. We saw World War II. And what really struck with me was a sense of hopelessness, a sense of hopelessness. So yesterday I
Mm-hmm.
was visiting my daughter, and we were having a conversation, just having a great conversation. And she said, I feel so hopeless.
No.
She said, she's not depressed, but she said, there's nothing to look forward to. This whole new COVID is coming back and all this other stuff. And I said, I think I understand exactly what you're feeling. There is no clear delineation of when this will ever be over. And I
Mm-hmm.
know from other astrologers and other positions in what's going on that we're in for a lot of deep doo-doo. So,
Yeah.
it doesn't bode well that this is what we are, the last iteration of this particular planetary action. And I realized there were other things going on, but
Right.
it doesn't bode well that there was a war, there was hopelessness, there was depression, there was all that other stuff.
Yeah. And you're
So,
like, and what you're saying, the buildup is accurate, is 100% the right way to say it, um, because if you think of the birth of the United States and the birth chart for the United States, Uranus is in Gemini, which is like, it's just in the first few degrees of Gemini. So all of this buildup in Taurus leads to the Uranus return for the United States chart, which will happen in 2027. And so if you look back, like you said, at the one in the 1940s or 1930s, that while it was in Taurus and building up to then the World War II, the fighting of the World War II, and then the Uranus return. So a lot of astrologers that I've been listening to have, lumped that with Neptune and Pluto, and then the Pluto return for the United States is coming up in February of next year. So that's a big one. But all of these things are this forecast for astrology is that, there could, and for entertainment purposes only, but there could be another war, another like civil war possibly for the United States, but it could be a global situation. So,
it could
or
be
a universal situation.
I don't know.
Who knows with the aliens,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look what's going on in Afghanistan. They're sending 3,000 troops back in to help them get out of there. And the Taliban has captured all the cities that it's like just another Vietnam. It's like a waste of time for us to have ever been over.
Yep. Yeah.
But it's scary. And it also signals, isn't it also true that Uranus is a lot of social, cultural changes that happen and occur during this period of time as well?
Right. Well, because Uranus rules Aquarius, and Aquarius is all about groups and common goals. And so, and so Uranus has that flavor to it because that's the planet, that's the house that it rules, or the sign that it rules. And so, yeah, it's all about, innovation and, finding a new way to do things and wanting to pave a new way, wanting to have it's like the mad scientist. It's, it's the space travel. It's everything very surprising and instant, it's like the bolt of lightning. And so being in Taurus, which is the sludge, just trudging through the slowness, fixed energy. And so there's a lot of friction there. There's a lot of volatility. Yeah.
Pretty bad. Again, don't like to be the bearer of any bad news, but I do think it's important to see that this is something that, it isn't something somebody just decided to make up and change all the rules as we go along. Astrology has been pretty much from whenever it was started, that this is what will happen, or this is what will occur.
Yeah. It goes back, and it never disappoints. It's always telling us, it gives us the ideas of what the energy is going to do, because the planets are the energies.
Right.
And it says, this is what's going on. So
the time before the World War II, it was around the time of the Civil War, which is interesting. And I got dates which may or may not be right, but like 1850 to 57, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 1849. Yeah,
no, I think
somewhere
it's like
in
1850, 51 to 1857, 58. Yeah. So that time frame.
1857.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. So at this time in the United States in particular, there was suppression of the indigenous people and by people in colonial power. We also had destruction and mining, and we had huge appropriation of wealth, and the poor were, over here, and we're seeing that all over again. Property rights, and we had the Crimean War, we had the Burmese Taipei War, And we also had the Austrian War. I know that isn't the United States, but throughout the globe.
Yeah.
We also had the Dred Scott decision, or the
Yes.
Dred Scott trial.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk about that? Wasn't
Sure.
that he didn't have political representation? No, he was a slave that was found in the state that, and it was a free state, and he was free, but they got him and they said, no, sorry, you're a slave. You need to go back.
No, now you're captive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we had a lot of crap like that. I mean, and the Civil War, of course, was fought because of the rights of other peoples being trampled on, and how that all occurred. There were changes to the economy and the banking system at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it says that Uranus has influence over social equity. Well, there couldn't be any more understanding of social equity than what's going on now with the Black Lives Matter, the George Floyd, the police thing, LGBTQ rights, because it says is it Uranus is feminine?
No, Taurus
but it
is
also
feminine, and
that
Taurus
covers.
Taurus is ruled by.
But it also covers LGBTQ.
Yes.
Right. Because it has to do with love and so on.
Yes.
Well, when I'm reading this information and I'm saying to myself, oh my God, we're just, they say history repeats, and now I really can see that.
Right.
Not only is that true because we don't learn our lesson, but it's also true because we're out there in the world under these influences, even though I'm not saying that they take over us or anything, but I just find it fascinating that those things, and they can be predicted.
Yes.
Things can be predicted.
Yes. We have the energy is there, but we have the individual right to respond to it in our, that
to it in a
collective.
Correct.
It's going to, it's almost, predictable that these types of things are going to happen. To the degree, is unknown, but these types of things are definitely going to be in the headlines for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So here's a question I have for you. Would a Uranus in Taurus affect a person more if they had their chart Uranus in Taurus? Does that not matter? Because I know it's an external planet and it's more about what is it? Generational, isn't it?
Right. It's one of the outer planets and it's generational, but it would still impact depending on where Uranus is in your chart or where Taurus is in your chart. You're going to be affected by this because the energy is affecting Taurus. And so depending on which house you have Taurus in, it's going to impact you personally in that area of your life. And I mean, there's probably, people, I don't know if we have any 84-year-olds on, listening that would have Uranus in Taurus, and there were, because it would have been 84 years ago.
Right.
There
are still people around.
It's trining which is, I'm sorry, 120 degrees, which is a supportive aspect. So it's kind of like talking to each other like a,
good.
Get along, because I have Uranus in an earth sign in Virgo. And so it's, they're compatible. So it's talking to my planets that way. And so, Taurus is the main thing to look at in your chart where you have Taurus, and that's where it's feeling all of this energy. Yeah. Does that make sense?
That's another fascinating thing to me, that that would be the case. And so as a collective, though, we're talking about Uranus in Taurus. As an individual, we may have, like you, Uranus in Virgo with some other things. So you're having to deal with the collective, plus you have whatever else your Uranus in Virgo provides.
Well, your Uranus is in Virgo because of the time you were born. And then, but
Right.
But transiting
But
Uranus,
where it is in your chart.
right? If it's talking to it or not.
Yeah.
But we all have Taurus
Right.
in our chart,
Okay.
and so Uranus going through Taurus right now in the collective is also impacting us individually, depending on which house we have Taurus in.
I get you.
Okay.
I need to figure that out.
You have it in the
so
same
I can know.
you're Capricorn rising. So you're
Oh, I do?
yeah, we have it in the 5th house of
Okay.
creativity and self-expression and fun.
Okay.
So all
right.
the good things. Yeah.
Well, we're certainly here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we enjoy it. Okay. That's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's see. Also wanted to mention that the 1850s was gold rush season. You know what I mean? Where people were running out. They found gold in California, and people were running out to try to get their money. And money is part of this. Wealth is part of this. So you had all the people rushing out and wanting to find the gold at that period. And that I thought that was interesting. That also fit with what this planet is attempting to do.
Yeah.
So
we also, I think the land that is now New Mexico and Arizona were obtained through the Gadsden Purchase. And so that's an interesting, just pulling in more land, and the collective.
Right. Okay. Pulling more land into America, basically.
Right. And just kind of,
Okay.
The idea of just the land,
they were territories at first, but they became part of our land. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So the current iteration, I think, will remake our world, or that's what they're kind of saying currently, and that our personal lives and experiences will be changed because of what's going on. And we've already seen that happening. We've already seen the attack on the Capitol, which is was on our democracy and on our Constitution. We've seen changes in the Supreme Court. We've seen lots and lots and lots of changes. And of course, now we're going through a second wave of COVID, and people not believing in what they should be doing, or feeling that, they want their freedom more than anything else. So prior to the 1851, we had 1767 to about 1774, I believe we came up with.
And 1794, 74.
This was people defending their property.
Exactly.
They're defending their property. They had the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, and there were lots of British reforms, and it was the start of the American Revolution. And in 1776, which comes later, which would be in Gemini, right?
Right.
We see that the things that happened in these periods of time come later. So once again, you get the buildup. And then Gemini gets to sort of see it explode from there.
For the United States, yeah. And since we're in the United States, that's how that
for the United States.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep. Yep. I also thought it was interesting that Uranus is also associated with lightning. And remember Ben Franklin? Remember him out there with his kite, and he was trying to determine.
Yeah.
And that was around that time because he was one of the founding fathers. So I don't know. I was making all these connections thinking, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. What else did I want to say? All right. The next time it happened, or before, the next time before was 1683 to 1690, I believe it is. And also, okay, so this was when the Reformation took place, when Martin Luther broke away from the Catholic Church and decided he wanted to make a Protestant Lutheran church, and there were lots of writings that he did. It's also, quote, freedom of consciousness as well. And there was political, economic, social, and religious change that occurred then.
A new way
So
of doing things.
that's
Yes.
what we're
A new way of doing things.
this is consistent, isn't it?
Yes.
It is. It's so consistent. Prior to that, it was 1599 to 1606, the bubonic plague, the witch trials,
Yep.
the slave trade. What else? The French and Indian War. I don't know. Lots of karma here. Woo-wee.
I know.
And I did not go back any further than that. I'm sure there were things that happened 84 years before that. Right. No, I know. I just kind of wanted to get the whole overview and wanted to see, how these themes meted out over this whole thing. And it's always social change. It's always unexpected stuff. It's weather stuff. It's new technology, although they didn't have technology in 15 whatever. Probably somewhere around there was when the printing press came in, and there were other things that people were able to do.
Yeah.
That you'd consider that to be kind of technological.
Yeah.
Way of doing things. So, is this something we need to fear? Well, I don't like to fear anything.
I don't think we.
Is it something we need to know?
I think we need to be aware of it and be prepared. Yeah.
Aware.
Anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I agree. Yep. I never want to buy into fear and try to live my life from a point of fear. But I think it's important sometimes just to say to yourself, well, this is a weird time in our lives. We have, I lived through Vietnam and I lived through other, things that have happened, and so have you, 9/11, all those things.
Right.
But this is very strange. It's like the United States turning in on itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I started to do a show, and it was, I don't know the answer to what I was looking at, but right now the planets in the sky, the lineup is all the outer planets from Jupiter through Pluto are on one side of the nodes, and then the Sun and Mercury and Mars and Venus and the moon, the moon is moving on because the moon goes pretty fast around, but we're lumped like within two signs down here on the other side of the nodes. And when I looked at that chart, I'm just like
a polarity.
It was very intimidating. It's like the little people, the personal planets are all lumped in here together with this huge, and they're all spread out up there. Like they're like in different signs. And so it was just like they're covering, and it's with the nodes as the horizon, and so it's like karma. It's just like, I mean, it's the whole world. It's not just the United States, but I just feel like it's like, what are we doing to this world right now? And our individual personal effect on the planet. And it just feels like the bigger picture, the universal picture is they're watching us. And I don't want to get all, but I looked at that chart and that's exactly what I thought. I was
it's like us versus a man versus nature. I don't, it kind of looks like that. Yeah.
Or that we're going to have to pay for what we've done to the planet is what it really just felt like we're watching you and we're going to come and you're going to be held accountable. And it's so, and that's not, again, that sounds scary. It just,
yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
It's been like that actually for a while and I just noticed it. And it will be like it again in the early September when the moon comes back around and they'll all be lumped together.
Okay.
Because the personal planets, the inner planets are all kind of moving together along the line. And then in October, Venus will break through the other side of the nodes. And so then that whole, she'll be on the other side. So it won't be like that anymore. But it's just like, that's why it feels so heavy and dense. It's just all those big planets are looking.
That makes a lot of sense as to why. So, I just feel like we need to listen to that message. I like you said, not knowing what the answer is necessarily,
Right.
it's still a message that,
Hmm.
and I could be wrong with my feeling about it, but it is as though everything's shaking up, and they're just waiting for us to shake up.
Hmm.
Like in other words, here we are. We've been here all along. You're not listening. You need to
Hmm.
shake up, and you need to make movement. You need to do this, and we know that the heaviness is not allowing that to happen. And of course, we know there's other planets that influence this whole configuration.
Right.
But it's fascinating that most of the personal planets are polarized with the
Against.
outer planets.
Hmm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
something else that's been happening, more so than I can ever, well, I mean, and I haven't been studying astrology forever, but the yod, the when there's like one planet and then it's connected to two other planets as a base of a triangle,
Yeah.
there's been yod after yod after yod, and those are called fingers of God as well.
Fingers of God.
They're like exclamation points. They're like focus on
Yes.
this, and there's
Yes.
just been multiples of them throughout this summer, and it's just like, like some of the astrologers that I listen to, they're like, I don't ever remember even talking about these things before. Now we're talking
Wow.
about them almost every other day.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
because
fascinating.
of the polarization, with,
Sure. Sure.
I mean, so that's why it's happening, but it's just like, it's just such an unusual situation. And it just
Configuration.
seems so important.
Well, when Keith got was called to the practice, we had no way of knowing that was ever going to happen, because I call that a finger of God moment. It's like
Uh-huh.
somebody had to die to have that happen. You just certainly don't wish people to die, and you can't plan on that and all
Right.
that stuff.
Yeah.
But that's just in the smaller, but in the bigger, what is it that we aren't? It's like God is pointing to us. The finger of God is saying,
Mhm.
look,
Pay attention.
pay attention. And
Mhm.
that's a fascinating thing to acknowledge, that I did not know that either about these yods.
Yeah.
So they're very rare, but there's been a lot of them this
Yeah.
summer in
I
particular.
mean, they're
Okay.
not extremely rare,
Right.
but they're certainly not common,
Right.
and then to
Okay.
have as many of them as we're having
Yeah.
is definitely, it's like,
It's a message, isn't it? It
yeah.
seems like it.
That's what
Yeah,
it
it really does. Yeah.
says.
Wow. Okay. So we're not paying attention uh, to, well, we aren't paying attention to Mother Earth, for one thing. We've already screwed that up. And,
Yeah.
I don't know how much repair we are going to have to do. But I remember in the 60s, it was really bad. I remember um, going to New York City and Los Angeles when I was a kid, and the smog was so thick. It's like
Mhm.
you had to part your way through it. You couldn't see 2 feet in
Wow.
front of your face.
Yeah.
And I saw pictures of those places since,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
remember it like, and your eyes hurt, and
Mhm.
your nose was all stuffed up. You had a sore throat all the time because
Yeah.
it was pollution going right into you.
Right.
And we've had that cleanup, so to speak. But now, when Trump 45, whoever he is, went in, he reversed some of that
He says, "Oh
stuff.
yeah, make it as bad as you want. It's okay. We need to
Yeah,
sell things. We need to have
yeah,
economy."
reversed it, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it can go back really fast. I think.
Yeah. Well, and you
We
watch those videos on, I don't know. I see these videos of the glaciers calving, where they're just like huge chunks of the glaciers are just
yes,
falling off, and
yes,
ah,
and they're finding so much stuff. Oh my God, they found fish they've never seen before, or things like in Antarctica, or they've found new species that they've never seen before, that they didn't think could live way below. And the other day, they just found not a ghost ship, but an ice ship that had sunk in the 1850, was completely covered in ice, but it revealed itself, like, and of
is
course
that
the
one of our
polar
dates?
bears. Do I remember the?
1850s when
Yeah, it was the
Uranus
1850s. Yes, it was.
unearthing, digging
Yes.
up, and coming to the
Because
surface.
Taurus is Earth, yes.
Hmm.
I bet you could take a map, or you could, you know what I mean, like a PowerPoint thing, or like a Katie Porter
Yes.
whiteboard, and you could you could do this. oh, this happened, that happened. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that we're not seeing, that,
I know.
we're not even mentioning. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah, that fascinates me, the Antarctica thing. I don't want it to, melt and all that stuff because
No.
that's going to be a problem. But it
Mhm.
is fascinating to know that there are things underneath that we just have no idea about.
Well, now I don't know if I'm getting into a conspiracy theory or not. I'm not sure if this is actually, but didn't the Germans have a base there?
Yeah,
Is that just a
I think
conspiracy
so.
theory or is that an actual?
No, I think they really did. They did a lot of stuff like remote viewing, and they had super intelligent weaponry and all that stuff. Yeah.
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 So
Absolutely. Yep.
those things may come further to light, I think,
Right.
too,
Yep. I think
because
you're right.
as
New
we're leading
things
up
that
to the anniversary, the last time Uranus
the
was in
last part of it.
Taurus
Yep.
and leading up to World War II, and now so it will be
Yep.
interesting to see what is
What things from
unearthed.
World War II we'll find out about that was secretive, because there's a lot of
Mhm.
stuff coming out secretive,
Yes.
everywhere. So SD Shakti, I think you were the one that wrote. Albert Camus was a philosopher who wrote a book called The Stranger and other stuff. And he died in 1960. But he was brilliant, and he was what you consider to be a existential. Well, he wasn't. He was an absurdist, really, which is like an existentialist, but an absurdist says there is no meaning to life. Life is meaning, he just had all these different
Okay.
things that he said. So his lecture on the human crisis seems appropriate for us today. It does. A lot of the lectures that we are seeing, we've been warned about all these things for so long. And, we get these people that poo-poo, oh, no, no, that couldn't be right.
Yeah, who
And
would have thought we would have the shutdown like the last year? I mean, the whole pandemic. I
right,
mean, that was when that
right,
happened to me, I was really like everything just went out the window because it was just like, well, if that can happen and nobody
mhm,
ever would have thought or nobody
right.
believed. I mean, I think we were told plenty, but it was like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And there's
Now
still
I'm just
people
like
that don't believe. I know.
anything could
That's the thing.
happen.
That's the thing that really is so creepy, is that you've
Mhm.
got all this proof now,
Mhm.
but we still have people that don't believe.
I know.
I don't know what they need,
Yeah.
and Um, so yes, we do have a crisis in a number of ways, but I think that we can transmute some of that energy, just by knowing about it enough that we could, send light and healing out, things like that. I know that seems kind of,
No, I really do believe
but
I think that that's a huge part. I think raising the vibration and,
right,
I think
yep,
because being aware and being positive, just, holding a positive divine light, you know, con uh, mindset is going to have an impact, and
mm,
it will have an impact. Who knows to
yeah,
what degree, but it's certainly going to have a better impact than sitting back and being grouchy and being
true,
negative and being
right, right,
just
and
like,
arguing about wearing a piece of fabric over your face or
right.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yesterday I was talking with an astrologer, not an astrologer, I'm sorry, a tarot reader that is not wanting to yet come on. That's fine, but it's her thing.
Uh-huh.
But she was talking so much about these. Now I can't remember what I wanted to say. Um, just how the patterns are, how the
The positive
patterns are,
energy, the
and the
positive
positive
energy.
energy. Yeah, yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And so much is being revealed. Oh, I know what it was. A lot of people did not want to open a YouTube channel. I don't know about you, but are you very outgoing? Are you an extrovert? No. Okay. He's not an extrovert. Sheila's not an extrovert. There's a bunch of people I've talked to that were like, no,
Yeah.
no, this isn't for me. Now, me, I can be both. I am more of an extrovert, but I also like my time alone. But
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm perfectly comfortable. But that whole paradigm shift is interesting as well,
Mhm.
because you get these introspective people like yourself who,
Mhm.
don't put me up there. I don't want to be up there.
Yeah.
I don't want to, I don't want to but as we get older, though, we get a little bit less so. It's
Yeah.
not as much, but
Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating too, because when she was saying to me, I don't know anything about technology really, and I didn't want to come on, I don't even know what I'm doing, that kind of thing. And I'm like,
Right.
do you know how many people said that? I
Right.
mean, even Linda G said it.
Yeah.
Even Linda G said it when
Yeah.
she did it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is interesting that, we're being called. Those planets are calling us.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we're down here and we have so much polarization, there are a lot of us that are saying, okay, we hear you. We're
Right. And
coming.
they could be calling us up. They could be saying,
True.
they
Yep.
could be our cheerleaders up there.
That's
saying,
right.
you can do
Yep.
it.
Absolutely.
You can lift it up. You can save
You
the
can.
day.
You
So,
can. And even if it's in a small way, it doesn't matter. The
right.
amount,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. Yeah. So that's fascinating as well. Um, so the Earth sign Taurus demands we also look to the Earth for its healing, and we all have the right to be here, and we all will face looking at our moral goodness, depending upon if we are morally good or not.
Ooh.
So this polarization of what was it? Black and white or racial strife. That just got a lot of it just got pushed down.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked about that in shadow as well. I think a lot of the shadow stuff is
Yeah.
and
I just
in the
thought of
collective.
something would be really cool because, I'm sorry. Hang on just a second.
No, take your time. Take your time. Anita, I see your message here. Is that Admiral Byrd is the one that lost that 1850 ship? Okay. Valerie, you have been called. You definitely have been. Yes.
So, this book, Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass,
Oh,
was released in 1855
yes.
when Uranus
favorite
was
book.
in Taurus.
Mhm.
So, I just thought that would be cool to pull it out and read something from it.
Yes. One of my favorite ones. I also like this Leaves of Grass is another one he did, but there's a stanza that he talks about the animals, and he says, one would do well to be like an animal. They never whine and sweat about their condition. They don't complain, And I'm like, he got everything. He got the earth. He did.
Yeah.
He was awesome. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. That was one of the things.
Perfect.
And I was just like, for some reason it came when you were talking about, I forget which one you said. And I was like, Walt Whitman.
Yeah.
That book.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And, I'm trying to think when, one of the other things I read somewhere, and I didn't write it down, but it said that during the 30s, and this made sense, during the 30s to 40s, the rise of fascism and communism.
Yes.
And authoritarian regimes.
Mm-hmm. We came real close, didn't we?
We did, and we are not on solid ground yet,
No.
in my opinion. But
at least he wasn't reinstated yesterday or whatever.
Yeah, and the My Pillow guy, he had egg on his face yesterday as well.
What a mess. Yeah.
Anita, you've been in your house for 2 years? You mean you like to spend time there more than go out anywhere, or you mean you haven't gone anywhere at all? That would be nice to know. I've been in my house a lot of my time. I don't really go anywhere per se.
Yeah.
Even when I drive up to my husband's office and I stay right in the RV or in his office, I don't really go out and do anything.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
That all stopped last year for me too.
So let's think about what it is next that we probably will bring in with this, because we didn't want to give too much today. That's why we did Uranus and Taurus. The next one is Saturn that we need to look at.
No, Neptune.
No, Neptune. Okay.
Neptune.
Is that a long-term planet? That's a long-term planet as well?
Yeah. See, the way they go Saturn and then Uranus and then Neptune and then Pluto. So,
okay.
But Neptune is all about universal healthcare.
Oh.
It's currently in Pisces, which is where it rules.
Oh.
And we will, in the United States, will have its Neptune return the same time as the Pluto return. And so, Neptune's all about dissolving confusion, viruses, and germs. So, yeah. So, yeah, we can do another one and talk about that. Another show to discuss all of that stuff.
So Neptune's in Pisces, and is that, how many years is that? Because like the other one was 84. Do you know? Every 84 years? Or?
It's much longer. I mean, I think
longer.
It's, yeah, it's like.
Okay. Well, I knew Pluto would be, but okay.
I can see.
All right.
Let me see. I can pull it up real quick. Neptune is right here.
Oh, thank you.
Did somebody already answer us?
No, SD Shakti. She says she's been in healthcare front lines since before COVID. I feel so bad for healthcare people. Honestly, I do, and I admire you more than I could ever say. I appreciate you. I know how difficult it must be to work with people who don't get it and are putting everybody at risk. But I thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Why is
that's cool, Anita. Yeah. There's something else that's out there, by the way. And again, it's not to be feared, but there are several people that have gotten some disease that was in, 165 years.
I just got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie.
Yeah, thanks. That's a long time. So all of us will have had the same.
Right. So it's not that we're not having a Neptune return. We're having a Neptune opposition when we have the Pluto return. So Neptune will be opposing where it was.
Okay.
But there, it's, I have all these notes because we had the,
tell me.
So we had like an opening square and then an opposition and then a closing square and then a return, opening square, and now we're at the opposition. So there's just those like in Virgo, 22 degrees Virgo in 1776 was where it was.
Okay.
And Virgo is all about ideals, entertainment, spiritual growth, health issues, marginalized populations, global weather changes, and flooding. Then in 1816 to 1817, it was an opening. Or did you want to do this or did you not want to do this?
That's fine. Go ahead. Yeah, we're talking about it. So
that was the opening square in 1816, 1817. In 1815 was ending of the War of 1812. And the beginning of the U.S. banking system and free trade. Wow. And there was a panic of 1819. Because it's economic. It was in the first house for the United States, which is your identity. And here was this financial panic. Mass confusion, there's always mass confusion and panic for all squares and oppositions.
Okay.
So then in 1857 to 1859, it was at where it is now. So those are these are the same things that we're going to be going through now. This is, slavery, divide the North and the South. The panic of 1857 was declining economy, and the New York banks closed for months, not days, months.
Wow.
So if we want to study 1857 to 1859 to get an idea of the themes that were going on then is what we need to be thinking about now.
And we are going through that. Yeah.
1898 to 1899 it had its Neptune return, which was the addition of a bunch of new states, Wall Street Journal, communication, mass media, media.
Yeah.
The Treaty of Paris ended Spanish-American War. Diplomacy and taking action established some dominance in the world, the United States. And then the panic of 1893 to 1897 led up to that.
Wow.
So
you have some of those things in the Uranus, and you have some of those things in the Neptune.
Exactly.
That's sort of like a double whammy.
Because the outer planets kind of do this dance, like where they're together for a while, and then then the faster one will spread out and get past it. So, yeah.
Wow.
And then 1938 to 1940, it was the Great Recession. World War
Yep.
II began.
Yep.
And it was back in Virgo. That was its return. Uranium was discovered, the nuclear age.
Oh.
Virgo is all about soldiers and those who serve and those who show up. And then in 1980 was the opening square, which is a checking in point. And so that was Reagan foreign policy, Reaganomics.
He used to have an astrologer on his staff.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Much to the chagrin of, Congress.
Probably, especially since he was a Republican, right?
Yeah, right. So the recession and the Sun Belt states started growing, but the American started having a decline by worldview of the Americans started like not having as best reputation. So now Neptune is at 22 degrees of Pisces from 2021 to 2023. Split in consciousness. It's an ending energy because it's Pisces.
Yep.
Completion of a cycle, big changes, big losses, mass confusion, uncertainty, and another panic. But every opposition is a turning point. So we look at this now as, okay, but global weather changes is on that one too as well. So Neptune.
Actually, I'm glad you brought this in today because you can just see the double influence or whatever, because if you're talking just about one thing, it's hard to see that it would matter that much compared to other things. But if they're the same things or similar things,
right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's again, these are the outer planets, so that they're the transpersonal. They're broader perspective
for the society,
but but they all still have an impact on us individually. So
fascinating. Everybody's saying it's fascinating. Yes, the United States Pluto return is going to be intense, which I'm not going to get into today, but
no, and that's the one that's coming up in the soonest. That's coming up in February.
Okay, so we do need to work with that and talk about that in another show. I think
my take on it is that's the start of the end of the way things are. When Pluto returns, it's going to be, because after that, then there's Neptune completes its pass through Pisces. There's the Chiron return coming up after that. There's Uranus return coming up after that. I mean, so all of these things are kind of just like flowing in to, So it's going to, this whole decade is going to be
tumultuous.
A big change. I just think it's going to be a big, big change, and we all need to be ready for a big, big change. And
we do, and we need to roll with it, I think, because we can't do anything about it. Some of the things, more so than others, and it's so hard. We tend to resist change, and by doing so, we get ourselves. It's not going to do anything. Number one, but we get ourselves all upset, and But wow.
Well, Neptune is also about spiritual things and self-sacrifice, and and so I think that's a kind of a cool thing. It's also entertainment. And if you look at the planets as medicine, like if you feel like like Neptune, if you need to pull more Neptune into your life, watch the movies. Hollywood is all Neptune, I mean, you just get lost in the movies, and you feel what they're doing, and so you're like transcending what you feel into their
what you feel. And the same thing, it says the same thing when I was talking about the shadow. It says, if you don't know how to take care of your shadow side, you can go watch a horror movie or something, and
relate to it that way.
Find a way of releasing it. Yeah. So it's all fascinating to me, and I love the way that it connects in so many ways. So Anita was saying that she started to learn a little bit about astrology because she wanted to know how often pandemics happen. And I think we've just been really lucky here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when this happened, people thought back to the swine flu and the other types of flus and the Hong Kong flu. And they thought, it's just no big deal, because we have brought those to the forefront, and they haven't been as bad as we. But I did not know that the Hong Kong flu killed more people than COVID has. Heard that somewhere. That may be wrong. So far.
But that, well, and to me, that's kind of when the astrology grabbed me, was seeing that when Saturn was conjunct Pluto in January of 2020, and that is when the virus took off. And so that's why I think the Pluto return is going to be, because that's at 27 degrees of Capricorn, and it's like at 20, it's retrograde right now, and it's at, I think, 25 or 24. So it's 25 because it's squaring my midheaven. But that Pluto is the god of the underworld and the god of change, and nothing like it's permanent life changes when Pluto transits, and Saturn was like the checking in point. And then now Saturn's gone on ahead, and Pluto is going to like clean up, and then, all these other returns are going to happen. So it's
life changes. There were times that I remember reading when I was a kid that we were going to be living underground, and, we'd be living up on the moon, and, and we all went, ha ha, that's a riot. But, you never know.
You never do.
You never know.
We don't know if anybody really is living up there now. They might be.
That's very true. I was watching a UFO show, and they had the guys landed on the moon. Remember when they did that? Mm-hmm. They were on there, and there's a clip that I've never seen, and I'm sure no one else has ever seen either, that says, "What is that above us?"
I saw that too. I saw that. Yes. It's like, what is it? It just flew over our heads. What
flew over our heads.
Like, and then if you look at the pictures of the moon, they have all these like blurred out pieces. Like, well, what's that? Well, what's that? There's a whole bunch. I mean, you could fall down the rabbit hole on YouTube
you could.
Finding these YouTube.
And Mars too. Mars is supposed to have buildings on it or something.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. There's plenty of people that'll tell you whatever you want to hear on YouTube about those things.
Yeah.
But you don't know. So
I know. That's true.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris. So how about the narcissistic epidemic worldwide with various leaders and followers? Oh, it reminds me of my mother being upset because some young moon was rising with the Moonies, and oh my God, and the Hare Krishnas and these other people. And it's a cult of personality. It's just such a strange configuration, and we can help people only so much, and if they're not willing to help themselves, unfortunately, and they buy into these things, we're screwed.
If you were raised by a narcissist, you've got to deal with that, and if you work for a narcissist, you got to deal with that, or work
or you're married to one, right, or have a boyfriend, girlfriend, or you have a child that's a narcissist. My daughter specializes actually in narcissistic. She's a therapist. She does narcissism and grief. Actually, she does those two things. That's all she does. And there's a lot of people going through both.
Yes.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation.
Yes,
and thank you so much.
Thank you. For having me.
Very enjoyable, and thank you all in the chat, and for coming by and seeing us. And we'll try to let you know ahead of time when we might be going on to the Pluto thing. We'll be doing that. Okay. Yes. All right. Thanks, Anne Marie.
Bye-bye.